I used to think God's silence meant he wasn't listening. Now I'm starting to believe it's the loudest answer I've ever been given. What if the answer to your prayers isn't silence, but the life you're already living? For a long time, I kept thinking I was missing the key. Like there was one prayer I hadn't prayed right, one book I hadn't read yet, one spiritual angle I hadn't tried. And when I found it, the connection would finally happen. I'd hear him, I'd feel him, I'd know. I imagined it would be a moment so obvious it would change everything. The kind of experience you could point to for the rest of your life and say, that was it. That's when I became sure that God was real. But over time, something else happened. I started to notice a pattern. Even though God wasn't in my life wasn't empty. It was full of people, moments, and experiences, all tied together by the same presence I had been searching for all along. A sunset that stopped me in my tracks on a day I felt hopeless. A stranger holding the door for me when I was juggling kids, coffee, and 100 racing thoughts. A quiet moment in the car where, for no reason at all, I felt completely okay. And that's when it hit me. Maybe I've been standing inside the answer the whole time. I won't lie, this wasn't some instant light bulb moment that made everything feel perfect. It was heavy, it was uncomfortable. Because if you've spent years asking God for a sign and you finally accept that maybe you won't get one in the way you expected, that's not a victory moment. That's grief. The idea that maybe there wouldn't be a voice from the sky, no sudden rush of undeniable presence, no aha that ties every question neatly together. It feels like having no choice but to give up on a dream, and I had to sit with that. For years, I had imagined how it might happen, a moment so unmistakable that I could hold on to it forever. Letting go of that picture was like packing away a gift. And within the silence, a little voice in my head was saying, well, what now? That question can feel like a cliff edge, as if you've been climbing for so long and suddenly the trail just stops. What now became the starting point for a new way of seeing things, because maybe the silence isn't proof of absence. Maybe it's the default setting of creation. Think about it. The sun doesn't announce that it's rising every morning. The trees don't tell you they're producing oxygen for you to breathe. The ocean doesn't pause to remind you it's been keeping the planet's climate in balance for millions of years. They just are. And yet, we live because of them. Maybe God works the same way. Not through constant words, but through constant existence. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. If the Creator is in everything, then His voice isn't just something you hear. It's something you live inside. Once I started looking at it that way, the pressure shifted. I wasn't chasing after God like He was somewhere far away. I was starting to live like I was already inside His creation, and that's a big difference. It meant noticing the way sunlight cuts through clouds after a storm and realizing I'm part of that same beauty. It meant watching my kids laugh and remembering they're as much a piece of God's handiwork as the stars in the sky. It meant sitting in a room full of people, some of them strangers, and recognizing every single one of us carries something of the divine, even if we don't see it in ourselves. It meant seeing the messy, frustrating, unfair parts of life and choosing, maybe stubbornly, to still believe they exist in the same universe as kindness, joy, and hope. When I was chasing God, the goal was proof. Now, the goal is presence. Proof is about certainty, evidence you can hold up and say, see, I told you He's real. Presence is about living in such a way that you don't need the confirmation. You just know you're part of something greater, even if you can't fully explain it. Proof feels like a court case, assembling evidence, making your argument, trying to win over a jury. Presence feels like a quiet morning coffee where the world just makes sense for a second, and you don't have to justify it to anyone, not even yourself. There's something surprisingly freeing about this. When I was chasing the sign, the miracle, the breakthrough. Every day felt like a test I was failing. Like if I didn't feel God that day, I must be doing something wrong. Acceptance takes that pressure off. It says, you're here, you belong, that's enough. And the funny thing is, when I stopped forcing it, I started noticing the little moments that actually felt like connection. A kind word from a stranger that landed exactly when I needed it. The exact right song coming on at the exact right moment, like the universe somehow queued it up just for me. A conversation that hit deep in the heart without warning. Were those messages from God? I don't know, but I know they mattered. And maybe that's the point. This might sound strange, but I think accepting the silence has actually made my faith more real. Because it's easy to believe when you're getting constant confirmation. It's harder to believe when there's nothing to grab onto. And maybe that's where real trust begins. It's like loving someone who's far away. You don't need them to text you every 5 minutes to know they exist. You trust they're there. Faith without proof isn't blind. It's rooted in something deeper. The choice to keep walking, even when you can't see the end of the road. I've stopped waiting for God to invite me in with some big sign. I've decided to start participating in what's already here. That means appreciating beauty without needing an explanation. That means practicing kindness without waiting for a reward. That means letting the mystery stay mysterious, and still letting it inspire me to live better. It's not about finding the perfect theology or the most airtight argument. It's about living like you're already part of something holy. It's not dramatic. It's small things. Taking a walk and actually noticing the air, the light, the sounds, instead of rushing through it. Letting myself be moved by a piece of music or a moment in a movie, even if no one else sees it as spiritual. I let myself see it that way. Looking up at the night sky and letting the vastness make me feel small in a good way, the kind of small that's safe because you know you belong in the bigger picture. Letting go of old arguments about proving God and just living as though I'm already inside His work. Some days, it still feels like I'm missing something, but more and more, it feels like I'm actually finding something. Not out there somewhere, but right here. Maybe the whole time I was waiting for God to show up and bring me home, and He was waiting for me to see I was already there. And that's what I mean by living in the answer. I may never have the proof I thought I needed, but I have the life I've been given, and maybe that's the proof that matters most. And now it's time for a closing prayer. God, thank you for the gift of existence, even when I don't understand it, even when it feels quiet. Help me to live as part of your creation with gratitude, kindness, and courage. Teach me to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start living in the moment I'm already in. And for everyone still waiting for a sign, give them the peace to see the beauty around them and know they belong in it. Amen. If you're enjoying my adventures in finding God, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons so I can continue to bring you more of my journey. Thank you.